Thank you very much, Nancy. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Jeff Gorell. I'm a candidate for State Assembly in the 37th Assembly District. The 37th Assembly District, if you look at it on a map, looks like an amoeba. It's one of the remnants of a terrible redistricting process. It includes most of Ventura County, Camarillo, where I live with my family, and Thousand Oaks, part of Simi Valley. It comes over and gets Chatsworth and the San Fernando Valley. And then it has a 126 corridor, so San Paulo, Fillmore. It comes all the way out here to Castaic. And it also goes up and over the hill and grabs 4 voters in Kern County. They're feeling a little underrepresented right now. I feel a little insecure because I don't have that English accent. I think everything's, even if he tells you bad news, doesn't sound good. But it's an honor to be running. Quickly on my background, I have experience in Sacramento and experience here in the community. In the 90s, I worked for Governor Pete Wilson for 3 years as a speechwriter in the Capitol, working with Governor Wilson on such things as Prop 187, which took away services from illegal immigrants, and 3 strikes you're out, and Megan's Law, class size reduction, tort reform, welfare reform, which caught fire and took off across the nation. So a lot of the key issues that, frankly, we're talking about again. Then I left the administration. I worked for the Manufacturers Association, where I represented manufacturers here in the state of California, and every day walked back into the Capitol and try to impart basic principles of job creation and job growth and economic development. And unfortunately, I found a hostile legislature in that building, and things have gotten even worse. So fast forward to today, what do? I'm a small business owner. My business is based in Ventura County, in the city of Ventura. We have employees, I hire and fire, sign the front of a check, and I know today how difficult it is to own and operate and make successful small business. I'm also a teacher. I'm an adjunct professor of public policy at Cal Lutheran University in Thousand Oaks, where I've been teaching for about 5 years, trying to impart a little wisdom and maybe a little bit of guidance to the next generation of public policy practitioners, people in politics and city and government. And then lastly, the thing that I feel the most honored to tell you about is I'm a 3rd generation naval officer, a son and a grandson to 2 veterans. I'm a lieutenant commander myself and a veteran of the war in Afghanistan, where I served for a year in the mountains of Afghanistan after September 11th, and continue to serve today as executive officer of a small Navy Reserve unit. Very Thank you very much. Why did I want to run for office? I've got 3 jobs already, right? Well, I want to do so because I'm frankly unable and unwilling to sit back and watch my state and my nation go to hell in a handbasket. And sorry for the candor and the frankness, but that's really what the direction we're headed. And any description less than that is too kind. And so I'm running, and I've got the support of a lot of good folks that you know, Congressman Buck McKeon, Cameron Smythe, the entire Republican delegation in Sacramento, and most of them in Washington, D.C. And what I would like to do is concentrate on the things where I believe I can make an impact. I believe I can make California a better place to grow jobs. I believe I can make the California government more accountable to people, more accountable to the Constitution. Make sure that the rest of the legislators understand that we as a state have become over-regulated, over-litigated, over-legislated, and overtaxed. And we put ourselves at a competitive disadvantage with the other industrial states out there that are taking our jobs away. I went on a tour of Amgen, which is one of the largest employers in Thousand Oaks and in my district. And they took us around and they said, Jeff, we're going to do R&D here, but we will never again manufacture any product that we hit on again in the state of California, because California has put itself, not slightly, but dramatically out of competition with the other states in the United States, and certainly with other countries. So we'll still do some R&D here. We've got a lot of investment. We're doing a lot of things, but we'll never manufacture widespread manufacture of a product ever again. And so that alarms me, because I see California becoming a place that is not the Golden State. It's not the place where I got to live as a youngster, where I want my family, my kids to live 20, 30 years from now. And we need a legislature and a governor that understand that. And thankfully, I'm looking forward to going to Sacramento with so many of these great candidates that you've heard from today, so that we can work as a team. Now in Texas, they're growing jobs. They do a lot of good things in Texas. They have a part-time legislature, which I support. support anything that would force legislators to spend more time in the district, back down at home, living in and among and around the rules that they've created themselves up in Sacramento, so they get a better understanding of how the impacts are. But in Texas, they have the governor will actually come out and meet with businesses in other states, and we'll coordinate. And then sitting next to them will be a legislator from that district where they want to bring that company out. And then next to the legislator will be the mayor, and they'll say, "Look, come on out. We're going to waive the fees. We've got a parcel of property we're going to give you." And then this mayor over here from the city of Dallas or the city of San Antonio is going to streamline the permitting for you, so it'll only take 3 days to get all of the permits that otherwise would take you 8.5 years to get in the state of California. We put ourselves at a competitive disadvantage with other industrial states, and that's what concerns me the most, because when you lose jobs, you lose quality of life. When you lose jobs, you lose revenues for the things that we hold near and dear, public safety, and the fantastic schools we used to have. Almost a 50% dropout rate in the LA Unified. If people aren't sick to their stomach when they hear that, if they wonder why we don't want to keep throwing more and more money into that black hole, they've got to understand that we need to go back to when we understood better the role of government. And that is getting money back down to the local level and leaving decisions at the local level and eliminating the bureaucracy that exists all the way up to Sacramento and all the way up to Washington, D.C. So I'm going to end by just telling you that I'm very excited about this opportunity to not only go to Sacramento, but to go at a time where we're sending a wave of people to Sacramento and Washington, D.C. Ronald Reagan once said that politicians too often miss the tide because they're trying to predict the waves. And that's what's happening right now, is that there's a major tide, and the Tea Party is part of that tide. And I'm proud to be part of that as well. So I'd be honored to have your support. If you live in Castaic, you'll see my name on your ballot. And if you don't, I'd like you to move into my district between now and then. But thank you very much. God bless, and here's to a great year.
Cameron touched upon this a little bit earlier. You state on your website that you will fight hard to stop the early release of criminals from our state prisons. As the only bond measure that I will ever vote yes on is building more prisons. Can you elaborate on how you will stop these early releases?
Well, you have to fight from a policy standpoint in Sacramento around the budget debate. But you can't just argue about it with a few legislators who want to release criminals. You have to fight about it in the court of public opinion. You need to make sure you go out and you go to all of the communities in California and make sure that the people are aware that their legislators, the Democrats who are fighting for this, are intending to release criminals back into their own community. And when the public finds out about this stuff, and you have a heightened level of awareness and visibility like we have now, thankfully, for the first time in a generation, people aren't going to put up with that. That is not a budget solution. A budget solution is cutting spending, eliminating entitlements, and stopping illegal immigration. Those are budget solutions, long-term solutions. And thankfully, most of the people in California agree with us. Democrat, Republican, declined to state, they agree with us that releasing criminals is not a long-term budget solution. All it does is, frankly, all it does is cost taxpayers more in the long run. And so thankfully, because Californians believe what we believe, and we've got the upper hand right now in communicating those principles, we're going to win. We'll win on that issue. We'll win on that issue because people are paying attention. And that's one of them I think I will win on. And I'm glad Cameron did bring it up. He also brought up the very cynical thing that I, as a freshman legislator, if I'm elected, will be the last one picked to go out there and everyone else. And I want to tell you, I've got thick skin. It doesn't bother me because that's how my wife found me. Another question.
Okay. Can you name 2 things that you would like to see eliminated in the budget when you talk about spending?
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wave my magic wand and say if I were king for the day.
That's right.
But these are not unobtainable. If I could eliminate, there's first of all, when I worked in Sacramento, I saw a huge battle take place between 3 major agencies that are all, frankly, responsible for the same thing. I saw a battle between the State Board of Education, And it's a bunch of folks that are appointed by the governor, and they dictate some education policies. And they have a staff, and they have pool cars, and they have letterhead, and they have policy assistants, and they have bureaucracy. And then you have the superintendent of public instruction, and he has an agency, and he's got his policy advisors and his staff and his letterhead and his pool cars, and he's got his bureaucracy. And then you have the governor's cabinet level secretary of education, and that person has their cars and their staff and their pool letterhead and their agencies and their policy assistants and their legislative director, and they've got their bureaucracy. So you've got three entities in Sacramento right now that all would like to take credit for all the great things happening in education, but point at each other for the bad things that are happening. Okay, but we could, and you folks all know this, you can survive with very limited statewide bureaucracy in Sacramento. Keep the superintendent of public instruction up there. And give him a very limited staff, eliminate the Board of Education, eliminate the cabinet level Secretary of Education, eliminate all the bureaucracy between them all the way down to the local level, take all that money, all that decision making, and all of that responsibility back down to the local level. And I would, I guess the other thing I would agree is I would go and do what, the gubernatorial candidate Meg Whitman has been talking about, going in and just eviscerating levels of state government that have grown. And now people say, well, we've got these, we can't just go and slash and burn. Well, we need to get back to a reasonable level of government. And then we need to get a GAN Act, again, with teeth in it, to prevent government from growing or spending any more than can be justified with the growth in population and inflation, and that barometer should be locked in with no growth beyond that, including in the size of government and the number of employees, because you can't justify back explosive growth that we've had over the last 10 years in the amount of state government. You just can't, it hasn't been an explosive growth in population, in fact, we're shrinking population. So going back and eliminating whole entire layers of bureaucracy is the second thing I would do, and instituting a GAN initiative to hold it there as well. I want to give you a statistic that should frighten you. Last year in the state of California, of all the jobs created, 85% of them were in the public sector, and 15% were in the private sector. So 85% were in the public sector, so they're supported by taxpayers, where 15% were supported by business, entrepreneurs, innovators. That is an economic model that is unsustainable for future growth. You cannot continue down that path, or we're going to be exactly in a position where we're going to get a federal government taking over the state of California in receivership, or we're going to end up with so much money owed in entitlements and in bonds and indebtedness that frankly we're just not going to be able to do any of the things that we created government for. Protect us, protect our liberties, protect our safety, public safety, and give us good education. We're not going to be able to do the basic tenets of government because we've created such a massive bureaucracy. And so those are the two things I think I would work on, and I look forward to seeing you all much more between now and November. Take care.